All right. Good evening, everyone. Dr. Todd Beadle, and I'd like to be able to call this meeting to order at 6:01 p.m. Thank everyone for coming to our District of Brown Deer School Board meeting and our special meeting. All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order. A verification of public notice. It was publicly noticed. Verification of a quorum. We have all 7 board members in attendance. Approval of the agenda. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved, Dr. Beadle.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second, Dr. Beadle.
I'm sorry?
Nicole Zick, I'll second.
Okay. Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor with raised hand. Oh, any discussion? I'm sorry. All in favor with raised hand and or aye. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Motion carries unanimously 7-0. All right, and let's go to our mission statement. Together with our families and community, we will inspire students to be passionate learners, creative thinkers, and innovative leaders who enrich our world. All right, let's go on to item number 2, our business office and facilities report. Facilities and ground report, Ms. Meiska.
She's
Jody?
on. Yep, she's on here.
All right, Ms. Jody, you're up.
She was on here. I just saw her.
I'm looking at her right now.
Oh, you see
Jody?
her?
Yeah, I do.
Her audio must be out.
Jody, if you hear us, can you give us a thumbs up if you hear us?
I don't think she can hear us. Let me. Can we go on to the next item?
Can I go over to? I would just move over to item number B, our business office report. Mr. Clemming.
Good evening. Can you hear me? There we go. I did just chat Jody, so hopefully she's looking at that right now. So we can move ahead with the business office update quick. Item 1, just kind of getting an update on transportation, just so everybody knows. The Here Comes the Bus app is up and running. We have pushed out information to the families. We'll do that again this week just to make sure everybody knows that they can sign up. Haven't heard of any major issues, and I did hear anecdotally that there's been some positive comments on social media regarding it, so that's good. We also went through the first couple weeks now. This is our 2nd week of running 2 after-school programs at the elementary and middle school, and we are providing transportation home in the evening for those students who require it. And so I mentioned the schedule of what we're looking at: 1 bus at the elementary school 5 days a week, 1 at the middle school 2 days a week. And that'll be done through ESSER funding as part of addressing learning loss. And then just finally, I was able to come to an agreement with Right Way regarding our September and October billing. So I mentioned the details in the memo, but we will see our 5% increase that the board agreed to over the summer. That will kick in now here in November with the November invoice. Any questions about transportation? All right, and then just a couple other little notes. One is that we are, the business office, mostly Trina, our HR manager, and myself are going through our first reads of our handbook review project that we're working on to have actually new handbooks in place for the first time in quite a few years. And we are using a combination of language that's been provided by Neola, certainly for the more legally required pieces of the handbooks, and then comparing it with languages and topics that we discussed in previous handbooks. So we'll be trying to finish that up over the next several months. We're going to go through a departmental review. We'll bring it through the administration. We're going to include the staff. We've already told them that once we're at a point like for that, we'll ask them to be a part of the process to review it and offer feedback. And then we'll bring that to the board early spring, I would believe, or late winter, early spring, after the first of the year, certainly to give the board a look. And then we'll hopefully have that in place and ready to go for the 22-23 school year going forward. I did hear, I haven't heard anything official yet, but we did talk about it at the budget, our budget presentation last month, that we hadn't heard anything about Governor Evers' per pupil aid, categorical aid that we have been talking about all summer. I have now heard from some colleagues that are a little more tuned into the state politics that they believe it will be released to districts later this month. And when that happens, I'll let you know, but that would be about another $200,000 again that we were talking about that will reduce our draw on the ESSER 3 funding if that does come through. And then just one other little tidbit I wanted to share, just so you understand some of the other things that the business office is working on. We are going through a process of implementing what's known as WISE Data Finance, and this is the 21st century version of our financial reporting. And previously, this is something that was basically sent, data was sent from our Skyward financial system every year at the end of the year to complete our annual report. We'd also do a budget report about now where we would send our budget and then we'd send the actual data at the end of the year. And then you could go through a process of making sure that everything lined up and errors were dealt with and things within the DPI portal. Now this will be a more seamless process where we will constantly be connected to DPI, or on a regular basis, we'll be uploading actual data from our ledger. So our Skyward ledger will match what's happening, what DPI is reporting, and we'll have to address errors and issues as they come along on a regular basis. So there's a lot of preparation. This is something that was planned for a couple of years ago, and the pandemic put a delay on it. They were doing some testing over the summer with all of the various vendors that provide schools with their financial software. And now they're ready to go to start having districts send the data for the 21-22 school year. So we will be doing that very shortly. But we've been doing a lot of behind the scenes, Kathy especially, in working and cleaning up the ledger, making sure old accounts are deleted, if there are any issues with the way they're coded for DPI, just getting through all of that kind of busy work to make sure that when we do send the data, it's all accepted and they are okay with it. So that's just a process that's ongoing as well for us. So any other questions about anything regarding the business office update?
Board members, any other questions for Kevin? All right, hearing none. Okay, thank you very much, Kevin. Jody, are you with us?
I am, and I have a new computer, so there's nothing like a new computer to really get you in your place, I guess, as it were, as far as your intelligence. I was muted, so I'm so sorry. Can everybody hear me okay? Perfect, thank you. Okay, so the past month has been really busy for the Buildings and Grounds crew. We've had a few miniature projects that we have been able to accomplish over the past couple of months. And with those projects, sometimes there needs to be some bugs worked out of them. We installed some barricade arms to assist with traffic flow at the elementary school. And come to find out that the asphalt depth was just not quite enough to really handle the weight of those. So we ended up cutting out the asphalt and pouring in some concrete to make those really structurally sound in the drive lanes. So those seem to be working really well, and they will only work better now that they are really soundly secured to the pavement. We did have a PD day, and as always on those days, we have a slew of vendors who come in, contractors who come in and do minor repairs that otherwise would not be feasible while the students are in the buildings. So we had some security and fire repairs done at the elementary school, including replacing some smoke heads, as well as troubleshooting a really odd electrical issue that was causing alarms when there was no reason for there to be an alarm. Also, we did have an ADA ramp installed outside of the band room. Not only does this provide accessibility to students whenever, but primarily the purpose was that during fire drills that we would have an accessible route for anybody who was not comfortable using a stair. And then finally, one of the other large projects that we completed over the past month was the speed bumps or humps, whatever you know them as, right outside the ASC. Dr. Brown came to me and she brought this idea up, and I said, absolutely, we can make that happen. And we have seen a very substantial reduction of speed through those. And, you know, there were a few jokes made about pulling up a lawn chair and watching as, you know, as people do not slow down and as they bump over them. But that has, now that everybody is accustomed to them, we have seen a reduction of speed. The final thing that I just want to make everyone aware of is that one of our groundskeepers, he is incredibly motivated. And so now that I have my facility management certification, it kind of paves the way for him to get his. So he was able to attend the Facility Masters Conference in the Wisconsin Dells for WASBO. It's a really superb learning opportunity. It's great for networking. You meet all of your peers at other districts and you can bounce ideas off of each other. It's just such an awesome opportunity. And I'm really thankful that he was able to do that. So that's really kind of the month in a nutshell. So if anybody has any questions, the board, if you have any questions that I can respond to, I'm happy to do so.
Jody, I actually have a question, and is in relationship to the speed bumps that are out there. Will it be any issue when it comes time for plowing and the trucks to go through with the plowing? Will the blades be able to just go right over the top, or how does that work?
So if you remember, there are speed bumps already in front of the field house. So obviously over time, the blades do hit those and they do cause damage over time. So it is something that we will need to make sure is maintained. But the ones in front of the field house, I mean, we're going on a decade. And although there are some little wear and tear marks on them, they need to be repainted, but the structure of them they're still sound. So yes, that is a great question. And yes, it will, they will deteriorate faster here in Wisconsin than they would in an environment like Florida where they don't get snow. But it is something that we will make sure is added into our budget for maintenance purposes in the coming years.
Thank you, Jody. Board members, any other questions for Ms. Meitska? All right, hearing none. All right, thank you, Jody. Appreciate the report.
Sorry about that earlier.
No problem. So again, since we got you on the line right now, we're going to go to item number 3, engage learners and our COVID-19 on-site testing for staff and students. And again, I believe that is Jody and Ms. Farrington.
Yes, yep, it is. So, I can get started, but really this is in Nurse Farrington's wheelhouse, and we have a special guest, Ms. Erica Sinclair with Health Connections, and she is our partner in this COVID experience, as Dr. Brown likes to call it. But we know that a multi-faceted approach is our fastest and, quite frankly, only real way out of this pandemic, right? So making sure that we are wearing masks, which thank you to the board for approving that. Making sure that we are quarantining in close contact situations, social distancing as much as possible, and vaccinating. But another key in this puzzle is to test frequently and lots. So what we are coming to see in the data is that we are just not testing enough. And what that does is, and what that means is that we have asymptomatic or very low symptomatic students or staff, and they might not even realize that they have contracted COVID and are infectious. And so what we would like to do in the coming through who knows how long, hopefully not very long, but is to provide an on-site testing location 2 days a week for an hour and a half each day, so that we can do random testing. We can test any students who are on site those days, who are symptomatic. And there's a few other reasons that we might need to test. So if you are part of an athletics crew and the coach or athletic director says, hey, can we test before we start our season? So there's a plethora of reasons why we would want to test, and having an accessible testing vendor on site is really going to help us with that mission. So at this time, I would like to turn it over to Miss Erica Sinclair to kind of talk a little bit more about Health Connections, how she was chosen to partner with us and what their role is in this picture. I think I saw her on.
I'm here.
Hi, Erica.
She's here.
Thank you for that introduction. Again, my name is Erica Sinclair. I'm the founder and CEO of Health Connections Incorporated. We are a brick and mortar medical clinic in Glendale, Wisconsin, and we are on Port Washington Road. If anybody knows where, we're 1 block south of Hampton, in what we call the Children's Wisconsin building. And we have been here for 6 years, and we do, in our pre-COVID life, we were doing primary care. We are still doing primary care. We work with people that live with HIV, and we work with people who are transgender, doing transgender health, or if they're part of the LGBTQ IA plus spectrum. And so those are areas of specialty. And we also do a lot of work in the community. We were doing work in the community before COVID. Once COVID hit, we started doing testing and such in the community. My background, which factors into this a lot, is I have degrees in African American Studies, microbiology, clinical laboratory sciences, and international public health. So when COVID hit, everything that I ever did in life for education, it all came together, and it finally made sense. So when COVID hit, we really started doing testing literally March of 2020, as soon as WHO deemed it as a pandemic. We started doing it in our parking lot, and our parking lot got too full. And we have other people. We were actually never quarantined. Like, we never quarantined because we were testing people. So we started doing it in our parking lot. And so the building was empty except for us. And so we had the whole parking lot. When stuff started opening up again, we had to go to a bigger tent. So I don't know if you all had the pleasure of meeting, if you could say pleasure, of coming through our tent on Port Washington Road. That was our clinic doing that, serving that population, or anybody in Milwaukee County or outside of Milwaukee County could come through that tent. It's open and free to the public. That's where it was, right on Port Washington Road. This year, we're actually, today, we started erecting the tent again, and it'll be a drive-through tent, and we'll be doing both testing and vaccinations, and it'll be set up in Lincoln Park parking lot. So that was a partnership we made with Milwaukee County Parks, as well as Office of African American Affairs. So that is, again, free and open to the public. Whomever needs it can get it. So we've been working with the Wisconsin DHS for, again, ever since the pandemic started, on both offering free testing in the community, food pantries, schools, churches, things like, and even here at our clinic. And then we also, and in the schools. So the way I got connected to Brown Deer is that we were doing testing in the school just a little bit at the end of the school year, but we actually started doing vaccinations with, in fact, Brown Deer was our first vaccination clinics we did at the end of the school year in June of 2021. And so that was actually a really smooth operation. Jody and Nurse Farrington was very just pivotal in that partnership of making that happen and make it happen really smooth. So we decided that once K-12 testing came up, we would partner again on doing that. And so what's been happening is we did some testing in the beginning of the school year. Some of it was with sports teams, and had a few, not necessarily outbreaks, but scares, I would say. So we did some testing with the sports teams, and then we also came in and did some baseline testing, both in elementary and middle high. And then we did that for a while. We did the testing so that they can still have homecoming. So we appreciated being able to be a partner with you all to do that. That was great. And then we decided to take a step back and really kind of see how we can make sure that we're streamlining what we're doing as far as the testing on site. And so in the meantime, people, the Brown Deer family has been more than welcome to come here, and they have been doing it, coming to our actual clinic and getting tested. And it's been, again, a very smooth process. Now that vaccines are available for 5 to 11-year-olds, we also are in conversation about doing vaccine clinics on site in addition to the testing. And we've already started doing vaccinations with other schools that we also are, for which we are also vendors. So we already have a process in place as far as electronic consent forms, having parents be present, making sure that we have incentives for you all. We partner with Children's Community Health Plan on the other incentives that they can bring to the table. So we're using all the resources that we have, including Uber rides if necessary, which will be free to anybody that needs either testing or vaccinations. So whatever we have in our arsenal, we're offering it to Brown Deer to make sure that we have a successful program. Did I miss anything, Ms. Jody or Ms. Farrington?
I don't think so. Nurse Farrington, would you like to say a few words?
No, I think Eric said everything. I just wanted to make sure that if anyone had any questions, especially ones that deal directly with testing, that you would ask, especially since we have Ms. Sinclair on the line and she does this every day, all there. Does anyone have any questions regarding testing and the process?
Ms. Farrington, you were so, we couldn't understand you. I think you probably have a weak connection.
I think so, because you guys are quiet. I said, did anyone have any questions?
Sharonda, you want to
anyone have any questions?
I don't know if she can hear
it's always funny when someone's caught in the matrix like that. I do have one question.
Jody.
Sure, I'm here to answer.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got you. It's okay, Sharonda.
So the question I have is, or that I had, which I think maybe Ms. Sinclair, you answered, but I thought we were doing this already. So did we stop because you guys wanted to kind of take a better look at how things were going, or what's different now from before?
So what we wanted to do was streamline the process. So what's different from before is that, well, again, we started our relationship in June. We were only doing vaccinations at that time. And now starting in August, we started doing testing. So what we wanted to do is make sure that we were being efficient about how we use the resources that both I have, or Health Connections has, as well as what Brown Deer School District has, as far as making sure that we are understanding the logistics a little bit clearer. And especially since they're both, of course, it makes sense, elementary and middle high, just like different personalities, different flows, different ways to actually work with the families and the students and the teachers. So we wanted to make sure that we just had an opportunity to kind of test the water, see how we can start it off. And then now the difference that you'll see when we come back is that we'll be more organized about how we call people down and the students down, take care of them, and then we get out of the building. Our job is to, and we've done this in other places and we want to definitely see it show up here, is that we want to be efficient about being prepared for each time we come in, and then also being able to be efficient about getting students in and out of there so they get back to class as soon as possible. So we're trying to be as least invasive as we can be, but making sure that we understand how every school operates a little bit different. So we wanted to get a better idea about the operations. And now that Jody's kind of back on the team and a part of the process more than she was at the beginning of the school year, now we have a better opportunity to get that situated. So that's what we're doing.
Okay, and then another question that I have as well. So then will we receive data on how many students have been tested, the outcomes, those kinds of things?
Yes, you will see data about how many people were tested, how many tests were done. Let me say it like that. Because if you can't necessarily go by the number of students because people get tested multiple times, but the better question in that response is, or in this situation is, how many tests have been completed? We do testing not only for the student, but we do it for anyone in the household. So we've had people come and get tested, and we've tested there where we've had the parent and or grandparent sometimes test as well as their students, and then both of them have come up positive. Actually, that just happened today. So we encourage people, and it gives a great opportunity for us to talk to people about how COVID works and how, like, if a student was exposed and you live with them and they live with you, then the better thing is just as a precaution, you might as well go ahead and get tested as well. Because if they exposed and they got it, then the chances are high for them to give it to you. It's a free test. It doesn't cost anyone anything, and it's just a swab. So sometimes parents even do it voluntarily, one, because they want to, but also they want to show the students that there's nothing to be afraid of. So it works out in all the ways.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And I will say too, because you're a school with which we're contracted through DHS to work with you, the schools that we're contracted with actually get a different testing than the community does. So we do general community testing as well, but because you're a school that contracts with them, you actually get the rapid test as well as the PCR. We do the rapid just because if somebody's like, especially people that are symptomatic, but even asymptomatic, you want to make sure you test now. Give you when we test you, you'll get an email right away, not right away, but before the end of the day, that will tell you like what if you're by next now your antigen test was positive or negative, and then in a couple of days you'll get the PCR result, and that's coming from the state lab that is Exact Sciences that we contract with, and so you'll get that email separately, but it'll also be as in the form of an email.
Dr. Beadle.
Ms. Peterson.
Hi, yes. Thank you for giving us all the insight that you have. I noticed in your conversation that I think I heard you correctly indicate that there is no cost associated with this. Am I right in my understanding here?
Correct.
Okay. That's really, really good to hear. I had one second question, and you may have answered it, but as I'm reading the detail that was provided, when it talks about who should be tested, it talks about the symptomatic person and the close contact individual, whomever that may be. But has there been any type of consideration, and it may be very time consuming, I'm thinking, of the testing of asymptomatic, because we certainly know that this disease, this virus can attack with no symptoms. So are we doing any testing associated, just some type of regular testing with our scholars?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that question. That's actually part of the plan, the game plan anyway. So we're going to come in once a week at the elementary campus and once a week on the middle high school campus. And we will have a list that we will, from the consented students that we have, students whose parents have consented, we're actually going to compile a list of students and randomly test people for the reason that you just indicated, in addition to testing symptomatic people on that same day. So that way we can get a good mixture of people that, again, may have been exposed and don't know it, because it's just the nature of how the virus travels. You may have gotten exposed at home and you didn't have any, and you're vaccinated, you don't have any symptoms. And that's because you're vaccinated that you don't have any symptoms. And you may actually be carrying COVID, which can be dangerous for those that are not vaccinated.
Certainly.
You pass that on to them. So I thank you for that question, but that's exactly what we do. Is that where?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Erica.
Dr. Beadle, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Hi, Ms. Sinclair. I have a question regarding, so I know you talked extensively about vaccinations that are provided to high school students and elementary school students and the vaccinations, but are you administering the booster?
Absolutely. We're administering whatever's out. We have all three vaccines, actually 4 if you want to count the concentration of Pfizer being for youth. We have all of them. And we're very clear and careful about the protocol. The youth, we actually have them in a separate line away from the adults, although we want the adults to, manage your children. But when we come and do the clinics, we also make sure that that we are keeping everybody safe and making sure that all the no vaccine gets mixed up with each other and things like that. So we go to great lengths to make sure that that if the youth dose of Pfizer, which is an orange top, is kept separate from all of the other adult vaccines. And I look forward to us doing those vaccine clinics. And we always, whatever we do our best to keep it open and available to the public, meaning in the Brown Deer family case, making sure that families are actually able to get vaccinated together. There's a lot of interest in that. As we have been vaccinating people all over Milwaukee, there's a lot of parents that want to make sure that everybody in the house gets it at the same time. And that's their, I'm just happy they're even considering getting it, so.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for what you're doing for our community as well.
Thank you, Ms. Williams.
All right. Anyone else have any other further questions for Ms. Sinclair or Ms. Farrington or Ms. Smytska? All right, hearing none. Thank you very much for that presentation. And again, I think I would sit there and say the same thing and rehash kind of some of the sentiments. Thank you very much for what you're doing. And it's free to our community, so that's even better. And being able to do that, so thank you very much. And we will be talking to you soon.
Most welcome. Thank you.
All right. Let's go on now to item number B, Ms. Arnett.
Hello, I'm happy to join you guys tonight and bring you a little bit of some data for our fall screening with our FastBridge testing. So if Kara has made me a host, perhaps I can share my slides.
So I think, Brenda, I'm just gonna click for you. So if you tell me when next, I'll help you out, all right?
That's totally fine. I am not, I'm not picky as long as everyone can see the slides. I don't care who clicks through. It's very helpful of you, thank you. So just a quick reminder, our FastBridge is our sort of our screening testing tool that we use. We are doing fall screening in 6th through 10th grades in ELA and math, and also down at BDE, we will do fall, winter, and then everyone will do spring again. So it gives us some growth at the end of the year, and it also gives teachers a really great benchmark for right now. So this is not like our summative tests like Forward or Aspire or ACT. This is a benchmark for teachers, for students that are in front of them right now. So Kara, you can go to the first screen. So I'm going to talk you through just some reading data, or the next slide, I mean, reading data. And also I'm going to give you kind of a summary. Basically, you're going to see variations on what I kind of am summarizing as about a 50-50 result here. We have about 50% of our students that are above benchmark and about 50% who are below. So while that's not, great, I think we'd like to see more kids above benchmark. It really isn't bad considering where we are in our process of testing, especially down at BDE. So the graphs all are very similar. There are two categories of low risk or no risk. Those are the lighter purple colors, and then those are above the benchmark line. And then below the benchmark line are high risk and some risk. So, I think it's important to sort of keep our summary in mind. And then as we go through some of the grades, that data is really helpful for the teachers. So I have BDE on the left, 2nd through 5th grade takes the A reading test, 52% are above and 48 below. And then on the right are 6th through 10th graders, not far off from BDE. So this is kind of where I'm summarizing our reading data is about 50-50. Okay, you can go to the next slide. All right, then to break it down by grade, 2nd grade, 49% above, 51 below. You can see the different grades broken down, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. So, again, this is really helpful for classroom teachers to see who is above benchmark, and it helps them group the kids and also identify the gaps that might be there. 6th through 8th, 6th, 7th, 8th. 8th grade, let me move my visual here. We have a few more kids that are below benchmark in 8th grade. This is probably our bigger number here in reading. So that's helpful for those 8th grade teachers to keep in mind. You know, I think there's just some learning loss in middle school. I believe the FastBridge data that I shared with you, I think it was towards the end of last year, our middle school students are the classes of students that experienced the most learning loss. So some of the numbers in middle school, you know, really help the teachers understand that they're going to need some help with some of their gaps. 9th and 10th graders, we tested in reading as well. They fared a little bit better. 63% are above benchmarks and only 37 below. And I did check, they are different. This isn't the same graph twice. They are different grades, but they happen to have the same numbers this time around. Okay, then moving into math. Again, it is kind of a 50-50, if not a little bit below 50%. So just a summary of at BDE, we have 45% above benchmark and 55 below. I think I was talking about this with Dr. Brown the other day. When kids were in a hybrid situation or maybe not in the classroom as much the last year and a half, I think kids read more at home than they naturally do math at home. So some of the math scores, you know, I think are a little lower than reading because kids may have been more prone to do more reading at home than they did math problems. So we might see some number of different, you know, some lower, more kids below benchmark in math than we did in reading. Okay, here's 2nd through 5th grade. Our 2nd graders too, you know, they haven't really taken some of, you know, like a benchmark test in the classroom with their peers, with the teacher, potentially since, you know, the first time a year and a half ago, they were in kindergarten. So potentially for 2nd graders, taking a math test on the computer at school was sort of a new experience. So I'm not totally surprised that more of them were below benchmark because it is sort of a new experience for our 2nd graders. But the other grades were pretty near the 50% of above and below. Okay, and 6th through 8th grade in math, not too far off 50%. Our 8th graders actually performed pretty well as far as 54% of them being above. So that was nice to see. And, you know, teachers are definitely addressing these gaps when they're teaching current material, but they're also aware of the gaps. And our new Math IXL tool, just aside, is really helpful for our middle school students and teachers to address some of these gaps that they're noticing in 6th through 8th grade math. Okay, 9th and 10th, close me here. Yep, pretty close to 50-50. And then, okay, so there's one other screening test that we do. Go ahead, Kara, thank you. It's called auto reading. It tests just a few different things than A reading does. And it's given 3rd through 5th grade at BDE. So our 3rd graders did great. 3/4 of them are above benchmark. And 4th, not far off. 5th grade was right around that 50-50 percentile again. And then 6th, 7th, and 8th, our 8th graders, we have about 3/4 of them below benchmark. So that data is useful to our teachers to be able to see where they're going to need some extra support. 6th and 7th were around 50% or a little bit better. And 9th and 10th grade, 10th graders were a little bit lower than 9th graders, but again, not far off that 50% of students above and below benchmark. So I think that's up towards the end. Basically, I just wanted to give you a snapshot of our screening data from the fall and remind you that it's really useful for our classroom teachers to help them group the kids. And the elementary building will give the screener again in the winter, and we'll be able to see a little bit of growth there, and then we'll all give it in the spring. And I've shared sort of the year-long growth scores in the past, so we will have that eventually too. And a little testing update, we did give the practice ACT test today to our juniors in the field house. It went really smoothly. We had a great sort of talk with them, sort of a pep rally, if you will, to remind them that we're giving them this practice test, so they're gonna get their results. They'll be able to see their answers with the test booklet, and they can prepare for the ACT, which will be on Tuesday, March 8th. So it was a testing experience today, but I think a positive one. And we're really trying to support the kids with some ACT prep opportunities coming up, and just, really helping them understand their practice score and prepare the best they can. So that's an update from our testing and data world. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Board members, questions? Ms. Smith?
Yes, I have a question. Are you able to see, I know how much learning loss there was? I don't know, with the quarantine and how they were gone, what can you compare this to for a specific group? So if you're looking at third grade, they'd be too young. So you're looking at fifth grade. Is there data to compare to see how much, have you compared it with, do we have any, just as far as with quarantine and everything, I'm wondering?
Well, we certainly have data of those students from last year and the year before. So if you're the classroom teacher of fifth grade, like you mentioned, you could see sort of the history of your students. And you can also see the areas where each student is lowest. So that helps the teachers group, kids who maybe need to work on specific skills.
No. I understand within the classroom. I mean, just for these purposes, are we able to see what that strand did at the last Fast Bridge? I don't know if it would have been at the end of what were the scores? Like you're saying they're 50-50. What were the scores before for that group?
I guess I could see what they were the last time we were in school, but
they didn't take it at all. No Fast Bridge during the quarantine, during the virtual.
Not at the end of a year and a half ago. That there was no testing at that springtime. Then when we came back, there was a we were sort of in this hybrid model, and some students who were in the building did take it in the building, and some students took it at home. So it's not really like a comparable environment to all the students this year. You know what I mean?
No, I understand the difficulty in doing that. I'm just curious, if we're at 50-50 now with the understanding of everything, where were we before? But I think it might be difficult to find because testing was so.
It might just not be completely comparable. Like I could tell, the students were in sort of a different place, and some of the testing environments and just every student's individual, testing or schooling experience. It's, there's kind of this break. Like even when we look at the state testing data, there's a gap from that spring when we had the shutdown. So there isn't a perfect sort of apples to apples right now.
Right. So when will this tool be used again? You said?
Yeah, so in winter, BDE will give another round. It's there's about a 6-week window in January. And then the 6th through 10th graders will take their spring test at the end of May. Okay. So then we will be able to see the growth from
at least for
the year.
This year, yes. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sure.
So I just have.
Any other questions, Ms. Robinson?
I have one point of clarity. For those students who are 8th grade this year, were those one of those groups that had the longest time out of our buildings? Is that correct?
Well, it depended on what they chose to, 8th graders were 7th graders last year. So some of them were virtual and some of them were in the building. I'm not sure how many of them, well, I mean, I don't know if they had any longer time than any of the other middle school students.
Ms. Robinson, are you asking the longest time out of the building in terms of last year when we were last year as we were phasing in?
Yes.
You're talking about those.
I would have to, I can't remember when the 6th graders came back to the building. I would have to go back and look at our phased in approach to see at what point they arrived into our buildings. I think the other piece to think about in this entire experience is the number of quarantines that many of students may have experienced in a given school year. So we were trying to look at the consistency in terms of the kids being in person, present some challenges last year and sometimes this year, although I feel like we're quarantining far less this year. than last year. It's just the number of days that any one group of kids were in school as opposed to out of school because of COVID lends itself to some level of inconsistency as well. But I can't remember. I'll go back and look and see if I can find my my phased in schedule to see at what point. I think it's a great question, but to find out at what point did the sixth graders come into the buildings as we were phasing in last year.
Well, they would have been seventh graders last year though.
Yeah.
Just.
Okay, yep, got it.
Yeah.
Let me see what I can, if I can pull it up.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, other board members, questions for Ms. Arnett? All right, well, Brenda, when is the next time that our students will be taking this test, this assessment again?
At BDE, they will take it during a 6-week window in January. And then at 6th through 10th grade and at BDE, there's a 6-week window in May.
All right, so question for you. Could you give us a graph of what our scores are now when they retake the test again in January for us to see what kind of growth has happened?
Yes, you're going to see the same graphs I shared today, but there'll be another bar next to them for each of those slides.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Sure.
All right, any other questions for Ms. Arnett? If not, thank you very much for that update and letting us know kind of where our students are at right now, and let's be able to use this information to continue to challenge our students and get them exactly where they need to be at.
Exactly, my pleasure. Thanks for listening.
All right, thank you. All right, let's go on to item number C, our industry advisory breakfast. Dr. Kelsey Brown.
Yes, good evening again, board members. This is just a reminder that our annual industry advisory breakfast will take place on December 3rd, 2021 at from 7:30 to 8:30. We are going to make a good faith effort to be in person this year. For those of you who were able to be with us last year, our industry advisory breakfast was virtual. And so we will invite our industry partners in to share in this experience with our students. And the ultimate goal here is it is a student exhibition so that our industry partners can engage with our students and ask them about their specific projects as our students help them understand what they learned as a result of engaging in our career and tech ed instruction. And then meet those partners who ultimately someday along the way, this will be our middle school students and our high school students. And someday along the way, our partners will hopefully take interest in some of our students as we know many of them will pursue careers in this area and secure potential apprenticeships or internships as we continue to grow the program. So we ask board members to, if you are available on that morning, to please plan to attend. It is hosted, the Ed Foundation provides continental breakfast, if you will, for us in the morning as you enter the program. And again, you will have an opportunity to meet our students and talk to them about what they've engaged in this year. So we hope to see all of you present on that day. And if there are any questions I can answer, I'd be happy to.
Monica, do we need to RSVP if we're thinking about attending the breakfast?
Yes, I will ask Courtney to follow up with you, and just so we can get a good gauge on the number, I'll have Courtney follow up with each one of you to secure your interest in attending on that Friday.
Okay, and where will it be held at again?
In our tech ed area, right here at the middle high school.
Okay. Any other questions for Dr. Kelsey Brown in relationship to the industry breakfast? And again, if board members, if you are able, I know it's a work day and it's 7:30 in the morning, but if you are able to attend, it's a wonderful experience and being able to meet our partners that work so hard with us for our students to be able to do that and stuff. So if you have that opportunity, please come and support and represent. All right, let's go on. Yeah, so now let's go on to item number 4, engage and innovative staff. Item A, total base wage. Mr. Klemick.
Good evening again. The memo you have in front of you and the board, we've discussed this over the last several weeks. just a brief recap of where we are. This is an annual process that we go through as part of the end result of Act 10, where the district negotiates total base wages with the union, in this case, the Brown Deer Education Association, or the BDEA. And we always, we have traditionally negotiated with them in the effort to provide them a base wage increase that matches CPI. This year for 21-22, CPI is 1.23%. And then we tend to look, because we have our modified salary schedule that is available that our teachers move through over their time in the district. We look at that and see what it would cost to move all the teachers as projected. And whatever additional money may be required is then a separate issue that the board offers supplemental pay to fill that gap. And so we have done, the administration recommended and the board presented back on October 21st to the BDA our offer, which was to increase total base wages by $95,000, $95,400.15. We calculated that the amount to move all of the teachers that were eligible on the grid was $110,640, which means that the district would have to include supplemental pay of $15,239.85. And this is what the board offered to the BDA. The BDA came back with a similar offer, but was seeking some additional half steps for teachers that were on the higher end of the grid. And after some negotiating back and forth, the board decided to stick with its original offer that it presented. The BDA decided to stick with its original offer. And unfortunately, for the first time since we've been going through this process since Act 10, the two sides have not been able to come to an agreement. So we are what we would consider a legal impasse. However, the BDA recognized that the next step would be mediation, but they recognized that likely there wouldn't be any real movement on either side going through that mediation process. So they have consented to the district doing what's known as imposing the last final offer without requiring that additional mediation. So they have, and the board in conversation has accepted the BDA's consent. So tonight I'm asking the board to do what we would have proposed under normal circumstance. Normally we would be approving an agreement between the two sides, but instead we will simply, I'll simply ask the board to impose the base wage, and we'll do this as two pieces, because the base wage is the part that we negotiated. That's the part that is legally required through Act 10. And then after that, we would include the supplemental pay increases so that the net result would be the normal step movement for all of our teachers that have been here with us for over a year. Are there any questions about that process?
All right, seeing none, would someone like to make a motion to approve the total base wage increase of 1.23%?
Dr. Beadle, I'd like to make a motion to approve the imposition of the School District of Brown Deer's total base wage increase of 1.23% offered to the Brown Deer Education Association on October 21st, 2021, pertaining to the terms of the 2021-2022 collective bargaining agreement as presented.
Thank you very much, Ms. Smith. The motion has been made. Do we have a second?
Dr. Beadle, I'll second.
Thank you very much, Ms. Peterson. Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor with raised hand and or aye. All right, motion carries unanimously 7-0. All right. Let's go on to item B. Mr. Clemick?
You can slide right into the next motion if you'd like.
All right, would someone like to make a motion to provide the supplemental wage increase?
I would like to make a motion to provide supplemental wage increases to individual employees in the Brown Deer Education Association bargaining unit for the 2021-2022 school year as presented.
Thank you very much, Ms. Robinson. A motion has been made. Do we have a second?
Dr. Beadle, I'll second the motion.
Thank you very much, Nicole. Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor with raised hand and or aye. 7. All right, motion carries unanimously 7-0.
Thank you very much. I'm sure the teaching staff will appreciate it. And I did just want to highlight one thing that I failed to mention in case anybody is on the line. The plan now is to complete this process in time for our next payroll, which is Monday, November 15th. So we will be moving forward with the increase, and then we'll also be doing retroactive pay back to September 1st for all of those teachers. So they'll, as though they were at this increase for the entire school year.
All right, sounds good. Thank you very much, Mr. Clemming. All right, let's go on to item C.
And then an annual process. This year we tried not to forget about it. I think in the past we have unfortunately, but once we complete the process with the teachers union, then we come back and request the salary increases that match the CPI for the rest of the staff. So tonight we are looking at, again, asking the board to approve the salary increases for the administrative, professional, custodial, and support staff members. And in this case, again, anyone who's been with the district more than a year is eligible for this increase. This is always budgeted as I prepared the budget, so it's already part in there. And again, with this, so that my payroll person doesn't quit, we're going to implement this separate from the teachers. And so we'll complete this process at the end of the month for the November 30th payroll. And then all staff will receive their retroactive pay either July 1st if they were a 12-month employee or September 1st if they were a 10-month employee.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Clemming? All right. Hearing and seeing none, would someone like to make a motion to approve the 1.23% salary increase for administrative, professional, and custodial staff?
Dr. Beadle, this is Lisa. I make a motion to approve a 1.23% salary increase for returning administrative, professional, custodial, and support staff members for the 2021-22 school year as presented.
Thank you very much, Ms. Zielinski. A motion has been made. Do we have a second?
I will second, Dr. Beadle.
Thank you very much, Ms. Peterson. The motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All right, hearing and seeing none, all in favor with raised hand and or aye. All right, thank you. Motion carries unanimously 7-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you, right. and the staff of the School District of Brown Deer, thanks you as well. So. All
right. We always want to try to make sure that our staff are happy. All right, let's go on to item number 5, engage board and community to lead. Item number A is the Wisconsin State Education Convention that's happening January 19th through the 21st, 2022. The early bird registration deadline is December 6th, 2021. All board members, again, as I said in the past, one of the great things about being a board member on Brown Deer and our recognition is that we generally have almost 100% participation at some point in time when it comes to the Wisconsin State Education Convention. I mean, it is a wonderful event for our new board members. This is a wonderful event. Not only do you meet other board members such as yourselves and being able to develop those other relationships and ask questions, but the booths and all of the giveaways and everything else is wonderful. All of the other recognition that goes on and the speakers, it is definitely worthwhile if you're able to attend. And like I said before, usually when we do this, Brown Deer is so highly represented and stuff to where you have bigger districts that don't even have 1 or 2 people that are there. And we have a smaller district and we have a lot of participation. So if you would like to attend, I know Ms. Ross has sent out an email, or if not, just send Ms. Ross an email letting her know that you would like to attend this year's convention and she'll be able to get you registered. All right, any questions from board members in relationship to the Wisconsin State Education Convention?
Yes, Dr. Beadle, can you tell us, if you have, I apologize, I don't recall, where it's being held?
Generally it's held downtown at the Midwest Express Center.
Okay, great, thank you.
And I think for the last few years, well, I guess of course not last year, but because of because it was virtual, but the years before that, we actually ended up with a pretty good lunch from a barbecue restaurant across the street. But was that had to do more with because our builders, when we did the referendum, was paying for lunch for us?
It was more of that. but historically, they've always, whether we were in the midst of a referendum or not, they've actually provided lunch for with CG Schmidt is who it was. Mm-hmm. But we also get together and have, and prior to that, we would get together just as board and superintendent to have lunch on one of those days. Anyway, so if we want to do that, we can also explore that. We can choose a restaurant and explore coming together for lunch on one of those days. I think it was the Thursday, I think, is where we would come together and pick a location and have lunch. So we can do that again this year as well.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Food always sells. All right. Any other questions in relationship to the convention? All right. Let's move on to item B, the Neola policy revisions. And this is our first read of all 58 of the bylaws revisions. All right, Dr. Kelsey Brown.
Sure, yes. Just a update around this first reading of these policies, just to help everyone understand the process. Donna and myself, or me and some of the other cabinet members, depending on the policies, meet with our consultant. We used to have Richard Zeman, who was our consultant, a former principal here, I believe, at the high school. But we have now transitioned to a new individual. His name is Steve Bloom. And so this time, every year, this is an annual process. So at about this time every year, the board will receive a series of policies to review for approval. We will always have a first read and a second read to give you an opportunity to ask any questions of me or Donna or any cabinet members. Sometimes they are, the responses to the questions have to be taken back to Mr. Bloom, just to make sure we have clarity around the response that we would give to the board. So I asked if you have any questions about these policies that are on the agenda today are more policies that are within our locus of control, as opposed to a next set of policies that you will receive very soon from the federal government. Their policies are their policies, and we we do not have a say in federal policies. Federal policies, they are what they are, but we also bring those to the board for approval as well. We can do this set of policies as well as the next set of policies under a consent agenda. And if there are any additional questions around certain policies, the board has the right to remove any of the policies from the approval pending getting back to you with additional information or clarity around any of those policies that you might have questions about. So again, it's this time every year, annually, we will do this, and then we will do it again in May of next year. What we're never uncertain, or what we wouldn't be certain about is just how many policies will come down the pike at that given time. So Steve meets with us, and then it's at that point that we recognize, or that we understand how many policies are up for revision or approval by board members. So as I thought, perhaps this might be a one-time process. It's not, it's annual. And so just know that these will, when you see these, do not be shocked. They will be coming on an annual basis, at least 2, if not 3 times a year. But at no point should we are not constrained to, though, waiting to those times in the year to make revisions to any policy pending board, pending your request as well as your approval.
Okay. Dr. Kelsey Brown, I actually have a question about 3 policies. 5112, which is that entrance age for 4-year-old and 5-year-olds. And exactly what did they want to do? They wanted to remove enrollment information that is not statutorily required, which would include what exactly?
Which policy number is it?
5112, and this is about the K4 and K5.
Entrance
age.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me get clarity on that one for you, Dr. Beadle, and I will send the board an email providing that clarity.
Okay, and then I had 5517 student anti-harassment policy. Yes. Now, I guess my question in relationship to that one was, where did it go? This had more to do with, where did it go? I'm trying to remember that student anti-harassment one. It was something that I saw in there that I had a question about. Why is it not popping up in here?
Dr. Biddle, was that one in reference to like procedures?
It was like the student anti-harassment. And I can't remember. I didn't write down. I left my notebook. I didn't write down what my question was for 5517. It was the student anti-harassment.
Okay, if you want to send me an email or call me,
okay,
then we can go over that one.
All right. And then the last one was 6152, the student fees, fines, and charges. And that had more to do with we not being able to, charging fees or not having finances be something that would stop students from being able to attend or
participate
in different things or whatever. I thought from the most part, when we look at that type of a policy, that we actually waived all of our fees and everything like that already before. So would that necessarily need to be a revision to the policy itself, because the board can at any time say that we want to waive those fees?
Yes.
So
yes, that's absolutely correct, Dr. Beadle. So while we understand the process that we're working in right now around waiving student fees, if you want to include this in our actual policy, we can do that. Okay. If that's what you're, if that's where you would like to go.
Okay. All right. Yeah. If you could pull that up, and I think I'm trying to remember what that student anti-harassment policy was about. This the 5517, and it was I thought it was in relationship to students and lunch, and if they owed lunch money or whatever have you, that we could not, those students would still be able to eat regardless whether they owed a bill for lunch or something like that. There shouldn't be any differentiation in relationship to that. If I'm not mistaken, I think that's what that 5517 was.
Okay.
And so I just wanted to ensure that I read that one correctly, that, that policy would be is if students couldn't pay it, they would still receive lunch. They would still receive the same food and everything else.
Okay. I'll double check that one for sure.
Okay.
And can you, Dr. Beadle, do you mind repeating your exact question for 5112 so I can make sure I get an accurate answer? Your exact question for that one?
Oh, the entrance age for the K4 and for the K5. Why? What verbiage were they talking about taking out of there? What exactly is enrollment? I think it said something about enrollment. The policy is revised to remove enrollment information that is not statutorily required.
And your question is, why was that removed?
Yes.
Okay.
See, because I think a lot of that stuff, the enrollment information, and I think it might have had to do with the dates of, if I'm not mistaken, the date of when a student turns 4, it has to be before September 1st, and then the same thing for K5, which is a recognized grade, and those students have to go to there. Again, that's just kind of what my question was in relationship to that. I just always wanted to make sure that there was always clarity in relationship to that, because that is a big question, especially when we get ready to go to if K4, hopefully, fingers crossed, that they say that K4 will be a recognized, and it will change statutorily. K4 will be an all-day recognized class grade level. So I think I want to make sure that we know what the verbiage is for that, especially if they have to if they change the state statute about K4 or 4-year kindergarten. Yes.
Okay, we'll get clarity on that for you.
Any other board members have questions about some of the things? Ms. Zeke.
My question was in regard to policy 5520, the disorderly conduct policy. I know that it says it's been revised to more closely align with disciplinary actions under Wisconsin law. I'm just wondering, is that associated with like fines or anything with the state of Wisconsin with disorderly conduct? I know there are like fines issued. Was the district doing that before, or what specifically were the changes being made to align more closely with Wisconsin law?
I can't remember I wish I could remember all this off the top of my head, but I cannot. But I'll get that answer for you, Nicole.
All right. Any other board members? Ms. Robinson?
So I wanted to get a point of clarity on what you were saying about 6152, Dr. Beadle.
6152. Oh, about the student fees, fines, and charges?
Yes.
Well, I guess when I read it, let me see. Requires states and local school districts to review and revise policies to remove barriers to education of homeless children. I think when I initially read it, wow. I didn't know if this was only going to be for students that were homeless, but was this going to be for all students?
So it looks like just the bottom part is related to students who are homeless.
Right.
I think Dr. Beadle, if correct me if I'm wrong, what I'm hearing from you is this in alignment with what the board has approved historically for the last 2 years? How does that approval align with this policy? And if it doesn't, how do we fix it?
Yes.
To get it aligned. That's my understanding.
Yes, that is it. See, because in the last 2 years, what we've done is we've waived all of our fees for every and anything and stuff. So I want to make sure that we still have the autonomy to do that if that's something that we choose to do.
Yeah, I think that paragraph just above where it talks about homeless students should capture that, I would think.
Can you read the paragraph for us, Ms. Robinson, if you don't mind?
Where the district administrator may waive fees and fines upon request consistent with the policy. Or no?
Yeah, I can see where you're going with that. I also see Dr. Beadle's side of it as well, and making sure that it's clear that is what we do, because it's so new for us. Like, it's 2 years in the making for us. And so just adding that piece for a little more clarity or to enhance it. I guess I can see where Dr. Beadle's coming from with that. I see where both of you are coming from, actually.
Okay.
And especially because this is something that's new. So I just want to make sure anytime that we have any new policies or whatever have you, that we have it drafted and say exactly what it is that we want to be able to do, as well as give us the latitude or longitude, whichever way you want to say that, to be able to do exactly what we'd like to be able to do for our students in our district and not be held to some type of a statutory.
Okay, I have a couple other questions as well. So one example is 0144.2. So that entire thing is crossed out. So is that saying to eliminate that policy?
Yes.
So this was just adopted last year. So why are we eliminating it now? Is it captured somewhere else?
01. What's the number again? Oh, 01422?
No, 0144.2.
Board member ethics. Bylaw 0144.2, board member ethics.
I can ask.
Okay.
And I'll put that in the email as well. Why is it being eliminated?
So it was that one as well as 0174.2.
Hold on 1 second for me.
Okay.
School performance and
okay, and the reports. Next one.
0174.2. School performance report.
A question around that one?
It's all crossed out as well.
Okay.
Ms. Robinson, the summary sheet for that one does say that the required necessary language is up to date in policy 2700.01. So I think they just moved it from one to the other. They're not clear on the other one. The other one it just says that it's been updated, but doesn't say where it went to. So that would be a good one to ask about, I guess.
Okay, and then a point of clarity question overall. So Dr. Brown, you said that we'll be reviewing these annually. Is it the same policies annually or a different set of them?
It depends on the changes that come down the pike. So what happens is a bunch of attorneys get together and review these policies. And then, so when we meet with them, they inform us of any changes that have come down the pike. So we never know what's coming until we have that first meeting with them. So over time, some of them have been repeated changes, and some have been new policies that have come down from them. So it's hard to anticipate what's going to come until we have that first meeting with them.
Okay, right, yeah, it just seems like a lot.
Well, this is, I mean, we don't get the details here, but it's oftentimes because state law has changed. And so the policies have to be compliant with state law. And so that's why the group of attorneys go through all the state laws that have changed since these policies were previously published, and then pass that along into the school district policies. And that is the benefit of us subscribing to the Neola service, which is why we did this, is so that our policies stay compliant with state law or federal law for that matter.
Okay, yeah, it just seems like a lot of changes for something that we just went through a year ago. So it's interesting that much would change within a year. One other thing I wanted to point out, like for some of these at the end where the date is at the bottom, they're kind of all over the place. Shouldn't the dates all be 2021 for the things that have been adjusted this year?
No, so some of these policies that we went, from Mr. Bloom, some of the policies that we went through, he suggested there weren't any changes in the policy, so the date stayed the same as the policy stands at the last review. They wouldn't all be 2021. I asked him, oh, go ahead.
But some of them show a change in the date, but they don't, like for the ones that show a change in the date, they don't all reflect 2021.
I'll go back and double check that with him.
Do you have one specifically, Dorothy, you're saying? Because I'm looking at all of them, it looks like they're changed to 2021. They just sometimes cross out a 0. Sometimes they cross out the last 2 digits, depending on.
Yeah, what he shared with us, if there weren't any changes made, that we kept the year the same as it has been historically. And if changes were made, then we would change it to 2021.
So for example, 0144.3.
0144. Yes.
The 1 is crossed out and the 0 is put there.
No, the 0 is crossed out in red. Is that?
The 1 is in red and the 0 is green.
I'm not sure if we're looking at the same place. There is a place to see it in board docs where you're seeing the crossouts and the red of what's been removed. Where I'm looking, I do see 2021. The 1 is in green and the 0 is crossed out and in red.
Okay, so for 0144.3.
Correct.
Okay. I don't know, maybe I became dyslexic and colorblind all at the same time and don't realize.
I was going to ask, was there something specifically wrong with the policy outside of the dates at the bottom? That was my question to you.
No, that was just the one little piece I was adding on at the end, where it just looks like it's been some inconsistency across some of them in terms of what the date reflects.
Sure.
Right. And so according to Steve, if there weren't any changes made, the year of the policy remains as it has stood for the test of time. And if changes were made in this school year, then we changed it to 2021. And what that says to me is that not all, while they'll bring the policies to us every year, some may change and some may not, but I think it gives our board an opportunity to at least think about if they want to, like, these are the policies that are within our locus of control, if you will. And it kind of highlights again, like, oh, is this a policy we should revisit, or should we leave it as it is? I think what I understand is if we keep them at the forefront, then we can continue to make these changes along the way. And then if we don't, then that's fine. But the changes are made, when the changes are made, it's in that year that the review took place. And then if no changes were made, then it remains the same, according to Mr. Bloom. So we'll always see inconsistencies in those dates, because not every policy will be updated every time, but it could make the agenda. Because that is the wave of policies that we have reviewed in this cycle at this time.
So I'm sorry, not to nitpick this date thing, but I'm looking at the same thing Dorinthia is seeing. So unless there's multiple places in this software system, like we were told to go to Ready for DA Review, volume 30, number 2. And that one clearly says it was updated to 2020 and they crossed out the 1.
Okay, I'll double check the ones that made those, where those changes were made with Mr. Bloom, for sure.
All right, any other questions in relationship to this first reading?
Well, typically there's supposed to be a motion, but with all these questions, I don't.
Right, I don't think we're doing a motion for this, right? Because it's the first reading. So we've got all of these different questions for it.
Right, so then next meeting would have to be the first reading.
Yep.
Approval of the first reading.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
So again, Dr. Kelsey Brown, that would be something that would be needed to add it to our November 23rd. Because I think on the November 23rd meeting, I think we may have on the board agenda policy revision second reading. So would we want to
change it to first?
Change it to the first reading?
Change it to first, yes. And then the second one can be at the December special board meeting.
Correct. So we need to make that change for the November 23rd board meeting and add that into the agenda and just change it from the second reading to the first.
Sure. No problem.
Any other questions in relationship to the multitude of bylaws, revisions, deletions, or additions? All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Kelsey Brown, and we look forward to being able to get some clarity on a few of those board policies that were asked questions of. All right, now let's go on to item number 6, our board reports, our SWSA and legislative update. Ms. Ashley.
I do not have a report today. I usually report out at the last school board meeting.
Okay.
That's not on here. That's for the board meeting. You look at the other one.
Oh, oops, I'm sorry. Okay. All right. Well, with that being said, then would someone like to make a motion to adjourn?
Dr. Beadle, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
All right. Thank you very much. Motion has been made by Ms. Zeke. All right. Motion has been made. Second.
I'll second the motion.
All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Ashley. Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, raise hand and aye. All right, motion carries unanimously 7-0. We call this meeting adjourned at 7:24 in the PM. Thank you so much for attending this School District of Brown Deer meeting. And as always, thank you very much. God bless, stay safe, and we will see you soon.